Hi, guys. This is Mark Morris, the copy bull writer from 8 Seconds Rule. And I just want to start off by telling you about Anchor, Anchor.fm. I found this site a couple of years ago, and it is the simplest and easiest way to start a podcast that I know of today. You can do it straight from your smartphone. You don't need anything but their app. It's free. They have creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast. You can even add music, add buffers, all of those things right here on the site. It doesn't cost anything to host it. You can start as many as you want. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it's heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, many more, and you make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. If you think that starting a podcast is outside of your technical abilities, you're probably wrong. If you could make a phone call, you could have your own podcast. Stop making excuses. No punches pulled here on 8 Second Rule. This is 8 Second Rule, the podcast about attention-based marketing where we talk about getting, holding on to, and developing the attention of your ideal audience. You've got 8 seconds. What are you going to do with it? Hello, I am Mark R. Morris Jr., your host here on 8 Second Rule and the bull rider of copywriting. If you don't know what that means, you can go over to LinkedIn and you can look me up, read my About section, and you'll get the idea. It's all about cowboys and bulls and how they have to stay on for 8 seconds in order to score. It's all about basketball and the 8 seconds you have to get the ball from your goal down to the half-court line or give it back over to the other team. It's about the time you have from the time someone picks up on your social media post, your blog, your podcast, whatever you've got out there trying to gain attention for yourself, and the time they lose attention. You have to make them invest, people, and you've got about 8 seconds. You have to choose what to do with it. Today, I'm going to be talking about my podcasting experience so far. It started well over a year ago, but with this show, it was just about 2 weeks, and I'm going to go through some of the stats that I've managed to come up with so far and tell you in detail exactly how I actually put together a podcast episode. Also, I've started a timer here to show you exactly how long it took me to put together this podcast. It was at 11:40 a.m. I am here on Wednesday, I think. The pandemic makes days so hard. 12/16/2020. So stay tuned. I'm going to share with you everything you need to know right here on 8 Second Rule. Okay, so first up, I'm just going to start off with what I did to begin with. I'm an actor from way back, so I've had a lot of voice training. I've given a lot of voice training. I am way out of practice, so if my early episodes sound a little sloppier, I'm probably getting better as I go. I'm kind of finding my pitch. I'm kind of finding my pace and my rhythm. But, you know, the show's going to grow, and as it does, I'm going to change with it. So eventually, I'll be moving into a more highly engineered version of this show, unless I don't need to. And that's entirely possible. My goal right now is I'm up to about 20 episodes in 2 weeks. My goal right now is to hit 4 seasons of 12 episodes each, just kind of gonzo style like this, because that's about where I think I'll start running out of content and have to come up with ideas. So at that point, I'll really start thinking about seasons, about themes, about things like that. Right now, I'm just going to share what I've learned in the last 20 years of being online and trying to sell and gain attention, and some of my theater experience. I was a director for over 20 years, live stage productions. So that's where I'm at, and that's kind of what I'm doing. So I'm just going to start from the beginning, which was about 2 years ago. I started a podcast on Anchor. I was looking for a place to go, and it was a free app. It seemed really simple. It worked great. I did a show called Dadcast Radio, which you can still find 3 episodes of. And after the first of the year, I'm going to be picking that back up. So dads who are out there, go listen to that. If you're interested, you can get on. I will gladly let you talk a little bit about your business if you will give me your best dad stories. What I want is experience from real dads. I'm not looking for experts. If you happen to be a psychologist and a father, that's great. But mostly what I want is real boots on the ground, guerrilla experience. I've got 8 kids of my own, so I know a little bit about it, but I just want to tell stories with dads. That's where I started. I got a few hundred listens on that podcast. I wasn't really trying to do anything except just have some fun, see if I could develop a bit of an audience. And I just kind of gave up real easy because I really needed to make money. And so I shifted over into some other things real quick. And I dropped the ball. And that's partly because I was way overproducing the show, which means I may go back on what I just said at the beginning of this segment, which is overproduce this show, because that's where I lost it. That's where it fell apart for me. The energy kind of went out of it, and I just couldn't keep those episodes up quick enough because I have a short attention span, which was great in theater because it was always a new challenge every day. It was always something different. I was always wearing a different hat every 5 minutes. But it can be tough when it comes to creative projects because it takes a long time to develop any kind of skill and really get something down and done right. That should not stop you from starting, people. It really should not. Share your journey. You can always rebrand later. You can always launch a new show with a new title if you feel like the original stuff wasn't reflective of what you can do now. That's cool. You can probably even bring your audience with you if you do it right. So that's where I started with the podcast journey. I knew that I needed a microphone. I have a son who's a YouTuber. I bought one of his old ones. It was a Snowball from Blue. And I liked that mic. It did a pretty decent job for me. I'm not looking to get real complex about this. I don't necessarily care if I sound super polished. I told a friend who asked the other day, she's a branding expert. I said, I'm going kind of for a polished dumpster fire brand. And she said, you're perfect. So I want to be a little rough around the edges. I want to be accessible to people because what I'm mostly reaching out for is solopreneurs and people who are just getting started. Okay. And a lot of you are going to outgrow me if you decide to take this journey. And that is totally cool. You know how many of my acting students are on Broadway now? Well, not right this minute because of the pandemic, but actually one is picking back up his Australian tour because Australia, holla, you guys managed to get your COVID cases down to 0. That's impressive. I know it took some draconian measures over there. And I have always been a big liberty guy here in the US, but man, I'm telling you, I think I'd be ready to park my liberties just for a little bit to get that done. Because I don't think this is about the kind of safety Ben Franklin was talking about when he said, if you give up your security, if you trade freedom for security, you don't deserve either. I think he was talking about more along the lines of a military threat, not something that's internal that you really can't help. There's nothing that anybody can do about this except wait it out or fight it through the right means and methods. That's just my opinion. Don't want to debate it. So I don't even know why I mentioned that. All right, guys. So I'm going to move on to the next segment. That's where I got started. And then I'm going to tell you about exactly what it is I'm doing now. So when I came back, I tried a couple of different things and the formats just really didn't suit me. I did a couple of limited edition podcasts. I'm not going to mention them here because they're pretty specialized and meant for a specific audience, and many of you would not be interested. But I did try a couple of things to kind of brand myself and tell some stories and stuff. I'm going to have one after the first of the year called Story Junkie. It's an idea I've been working on for a while where I'm going to tell my own stories. I'm going to read some of my short fiction, and I'm also going to bring on guests, lots of guests, to tell their best stories. So if you've got one, you can message me anytime. You go to the Anchor app. You can leave a voice message for me there. You can reach me at markrmorris2@gmail.com. You can find me on LinkedIn almost 24 hours a day right now during the pandemic, especially at Mark R. Morris Jr. So anywhere that you look for Mark R. Morris Jr., you're going to find me. If you like what you see, that's great. But what you see is what you get, guys. And I am not going to be changing myself just to suit someone else. Even if you have wheelbarrows full of money that you want to offer me, which that hasn't happened yet, but it could. I am not going to be that guy. I can't. It's too late in life for that. I decided a long time ago I wouldn't be. So I'm here on Anchor, and Anchor.fm is the app that I use. It's a very simple app. And what it does is it gives you the ability to record. It provides you with a library for all of the recordings that you've made already. It allows you to use music from Spotify. I've mentioned this once before. Those podcasts that have music from Spotify can only be played on Spotify because the rights and the royalties have already been dealt with. It allows you to get messages from your listeners, and it also gives you a library of transitions and background music that you can use to actually break up your podcast and make it sound like it was produced. The only thing on this podcast, other than maybe 1 or 2 episodes that I've had to do some things with, that are produced outside of Anchor, are my intro, and I'm probably going to make an ad segment for me as a ghostwriter, as a service provider, maybe I don't know, I might do several different ones and kind of pop them in here and there to see if I can just get some business off of this. Perfectly okay. I'm willing to give away all this information. You never have to hire me to be my friend. You never have to hire me to get my advice. In fact, I do 30-minute consults with anybody who wants one. You can message me anytime. All right, so I'm using the Anchor app, and I'm using a Snowball mic. It is a different Snowball mic than I've had before because I found one on Facebook Marketplace that actually had a boom clamp stand with it and a windscreen. So it's a little bit better because mine had gotten to the point that the microphone cable wasn't staying attached properly. The end had gotten all bent up. The jack inside it was kind of loose and wonky. So I was having to re-record things over and over and over again. So I bought a different one. This one works great. That's my whole entire setup, and I'm using an HP Envy laptop. It's a X360 that I bought at a pawn shop for a couple of $100. I don't buy brand new computers because I beat the crap out of them. I write so much. So I have a son who's very technically minded. He goes with me. We pick out the best ones they've got. We spend very little money, and I pick up a new one maybe every 16 to 18 months because I just wreck the keyboards, and we can replace the keyboards, but I've not found one that I'm so in love with that I want to do that. Plus these touch screens tend to crack and stuff. So, over time they just kind of take some abuse, and I'd rather trade them out. I can hand them off to my younger kids to use or keep them as spares. I've got a spare sitting on my desk right now that I think is an Acer that I had. That was the last one that I used before this. So that's my whole entire setup, guys. And I am operating from my Wi-Fi in my house. When I do interviews, I am on my Galaxy S20, and I'm using the Anchor app, and I use a pair of headphones. They say not to use an external microphone. I've only had one problem, and that was with David Alto, and we're going to get him back on because I think I figured it out, David, if you're listening to this. I was trying to use the phone's data connection, and because my Wi-Fi had been a little bit shaky, and I thought that was the problem. So I'd clicked out of my Wi-Fi, but yesterday I did 2 interviews and actually used the Wi-Fi, and it was great. So if you have a good, quick Wi-Fi speed, that's a great way to go. If you don't, you might have to go somewhere and park outside of a Starbucks or something to get a good connection, and that's okay. Do that, man. You can podcast in your car. It's not really that big of a deal. If you are thinking you need a full studio setup, guys, I'm going to share with you in the next episode what's happening with my podcast already and tell you some stories about some other people, and then we'll go from there, okay? All right. Hang tight. I'll be right back. Okay. So what is the story of 8-Second Rule? Well, it's about marketing. I was in social media marketing way back in 2010, 2011. I'm going to put an episode on here that's going to be a bonus episode that's just going to have my resume. I'm just going to go down the list of businesses that I started on my own and things that I got into that I've done through the years and just kind of tell you what my level of success has been. Spoiler alert, I'm not wealthy. Okay, but I have managed to feed my family, stay in a house, have a car, all of those normal things. I've never had to file for bankruptcy. I've never had to beg on the street. I've done a little better than that. I've kept my head above the average salary line, which means not a lot because I've had to pay all my own benefits and things, but I'll get into that in detail in that episode. If you want to look for it, it's going to be coming up pretty soon. But with this podcast, I just wanted to share something that I could share through my own voice that didn't require me getting a bunch of guests on from the beginning. My initial thought was I wanted it to be 3-to-1. So I would do 3 episodes, I would have a guest. I would do 3 episodes, I would have a guest. It may be more like 1-to-1 by the time it breaks down, but I want to make sure that I'm always keeping my own voice in this, because that's kind of what this is about, is me sharing my experience and kind of making sure that I'm getting as much of that data out as possible. I try to lead with ignorance here, people. So there's a lot of things I don't know about podcasting. There's a lot of people who are really much more advanced at this than I am. I am not trying to be the king of anything, okay? But here is what we've started. So far, the podcast has been in existence since the 25th of November. That was just a couple days after Thanksgiving. I put up that 0 episode. If you've not listened to it yet, it's about trash can turkey. It was kind of fun. and it got a few listens, and then I knew I was going to wait a little bit. So I put that out there as kind of a teaser, and some people heard it and they liked it. And I'm primarily promoting it on LinkedIn. Then I just started putting together episodes. About, 10 days later, decided to jump off into that. And so here is what we have so far. I have had, let's see, let me tell you how many episodes there are first. I believe it's 18. There are 19 total episodes because I have 18 numbered episodes. And then I also have that 0 episode, which was kind of a bonus special. So far, out of the 19 episodes, I've had 342 plays of the episodes. I've had 136 unique listeners. I have been heard in the United States, the United Kingdom, Serbia, Canada, South Africa, Ireland, India, Italy. Here, the list goes on. Belgrade. Well, shoot. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to do this on my laptop, and I just clicked out of the screen that I need. So, it's all cycling and going crazy on me. Because I can't grab the stupid little taskbar to pull it down so I can scroll through this list. South Africa, Ireland, India, Italy, Australia, New Zealand, Philippines, Singapore, Pakistan, Brunei, Finland, Mexico, Nigeria, Republic of Lithuania, Russia, and Bangladesh. Wow! That's kind of cool. Now, I know that some of those people accidentally logged into this, and they're probably some of those listens that are like 2 seconds each, right? But out of 136 listeners, what that means is that everyone is listening to 2 or 3 episodes at least. And I know some people have listened to the whole thing because they've told me, and I think you're crazy for wanting to listen to me that much. But there it is, and I'm having fun with it, so let's keep going. All right, so that's what I've managed to achieve so far. And on the Anchor podcast app, they give you the opportunity to actually write an ad. And I think there's an affiliate program, which I desperately need to get a part of that, because if there is, if they pay anything or they give me, I don't even know, perks, whatever, because it doesn't cost anything to be on here, because I really recommend them so much. It's been amazing. They give you the ability to read an ad for them from the very first episode. So out of the 342 listens that I've had so far, I have actually earned $3.46. Okay, so this is all potential income yet, because it has to go into a Stripe account, and then that gets transferred into my bank account, and it cannot be, you can't cash out of that until you have $10. So it's kind of exciting, though, that I was able to actually monetize it that quickly, even on a small scale, because this went, from like $1 2 days ago to $3.46 today. So it is compounding. It's called compound attention. It's a principle that I'm kind of thinking on and want to share more about as I kind of flush it out in my head. But essentially, it's the power of those big posts on social media that continue to gain viewers long after you've put them up. Okay, weeks later, you're still seeing more. Those numbers are growing, right? It's that blog post that just continues to get hits after a year. It's compound attention, and that's what draws people to you. Those are the kinds of things you need. You need some of those big explosion moments, which is why I did posting 10 times a day on LinkedIn to get this thing launched and do some other stuff. So what else have I done to promote this? I'm going to talk about that in the next segment right here on 8-Second Rule. All right. I am not in a position to write the book, How to Promote Your Podcast, just yet. But I do know a thing or two about promoting. And so here is what I have done so far. I put it onto the Anchor app, in part because they also put it out very quickly into several other big podcasting directories. Okay, so they go to Apple Podcasts. You know what? Let me just read off the list here. Distribution. Wait, I'm in the wrong page because I'm about to destroy my recording that I'm making. Distribution. Okay, so it gives you an RSS feed, which you can share almost anywhere. And then right now it's on Anchor, which is Spotify. It's on Breaker. It's on Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Spotify, and then Apple Podcasts, Castbox, and Overcast for certain, then I went in and listened and put it on like listen.fm and a bunch of others. Here's what I do, guys. I go down a rabbit hole, like I talked about in the episode, going down the rabbit hole. I look and I study and study and study until I find all the lists I can of places to put a podcast. And then I go in and I share the information with them. I give them my email address. I give them my RSS feed. I do whatever they want me to do to set up a free profile there so that they will list my podcast. That's it. Okay. I have no idea. I know that I have at least as many listens as Anchor is counting. There's probably some others out there that are not being aggregated, by the minute, like in real time. So if I have to guess, I'm probably up somewhere around 400 listens total because I'm on over 20 different platforms. So I did that. And then I started talking about it on LinkedIn, and I started talking about it on Twitter, and I started talking about it on Facebook. And on LinkedIn, I've taken a very specific promotional campaign, and that is I get a lot of connection requests especially when I'm doing these kind of launch pad periods where I'm doing a ton of content all at once. If I'm very present on the site, I will get anywhere from 10 to 50, and I know this is nothing compared to some people. They've got thousands. That's cool. Hey, good for you. Maybe I'll get there someday. But I get 10 to 50 requests a day, so I'm adding 100 to 200 new people every week. All right. I have about 16,000 followers. So what I do with that is, if you are a new follower of mine on LinkedIn, I'm sorry, you probably got a message from me, but it is not a sales pitch. People do not sales pitch a new connection on any social media platform unless they've asked for it. Unsolicited sales pitches are the bane of our existence. It's just a bane. I said Dane. It's not a Dane. It's a bane. Oh my God. I'm embarrassed. Wait, I think I hear the grammar police coming to get me. I've used the wrong word. Okay, maybe not. Maybe I'll be okay. All right, so they're the bane of our existence, guys. No one wants that. No one ever. And I've said this before, probably on this podcast. Nobody in the world is begging for people to just send them every sales pitch. And if they did that, it would be solicited. But honestly, no one wants that. No one wants random sales pitches. They just don't. Unless they're collecting them for some reason. And, maybe that'd be a thing. Maybe I could set up a profile and just ask for sales pitches, just collect them and write them into a book about how bad they are. That might be really funny, actually. That could be an entire podcast on its own. There's an idea. If somebody's writing down all of my ideas, that one's good. Okay, so where was I even? Oh, I was talking to you about the platforms that it's on and the things that I've done to promote it. So my thing in LinkedIn is this. I will click into and find all of the people that I have not engaged in a message yet. Okay, so I just start in my connections. And if you are a LinkedIn user, you can do this. You can also do it on Facebook or anywhere else. You go into connections, which I have 16,612 right now. Don't be impressed. I had like 12,000 and it went down to like 8,000. This was from years and years and years ago because of all the bots that I had connected to. So most of these people I haven't spoken to, but it's because LinkedIn sends your content out to a small percentage of your audience. So the bigger it is, the bigger that pool of people that get to test market your content to every day when you put up a post will become. And if some of them respond, it gets bigger. Okay. So I go in here and I look through and I kind of click on the message button next to a connection. And if I see that I have not messaged this person yet, then I'm just going to write this message right here in front of you. This guy's name is Nick Smethurst. I'm going to say, hi, Nick. Thanks for joining my network. I work hard to provide value to all of my connections, so don't hesitate to ask if there's anything I can do for you. And then I say this by way of introduction. Here is one of my new projects, my podcast, 8-second rule. If you like it, you can find my content on LinkedIn under the hashtag number 8, second rule. I use that one a lot. I just added that bit. That was actually a really good idea, but I hadn't thought of it before. So then I'm going to go back to Anchor, click into dashboard is where I'm going. And then it has this place where it kind of gives the intro to my 8-second rule. It has the piece that I've written about it. And you click on view public site, just copy that link. It's the fastest way. You can get it in other ways. I'm sure that someone who's technically minded is out there laughing at me for doing it like that, but that's just how my brain works. Do what works for you, people. Always do what works for you. I'm going to add this link into this message, and I'm going to click send. Now, Nick Smethurst has been introduced to my podcast, and it's up to him from here. So I've done that, and I get a lot of responses from people. Sometimes I'll even ask for feedback. I'll be like, hey, check out my podcast. It's kind of new, so give me some feedback. That's a great way to get people talking to you, okay? Because it leads with ignorance. It's like, I am not perfect, and I really would like you to kind of tell me if you think this is good stuff or not. All right. Okay, guys, listen, I just looked at the time on this episode and it is too long. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to start a second episode right away and tell you about the actual podcasting experience, like actually how you build an episode using Anchor. So it's going to be part 2 of this. It's like a little mini series, so please don't miss it. And I just wanted to put that out there. So again, thank you for listening to the 8-second rule. If you are looking for more information on how to practically actually produce a podcast episode, go on to the next episode and I'm going to share that with you. I'm just going to record it here in just a few minutes. All right. So have a great day.